Good evening. It is April 2nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Teresa Ann Moss present.
Joe Shane present.
Chad Sexton Duranian present. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank all those that served for the country and those still in service. And our first responders. The meeting is being recorded and uploaded to YouTube at a later date. 1.4 Chairman's additions and deletions. We will be deleting 2.1, the Mass Trails Grant status update. We've had some changes, so we want to have that discussion. So it looks like we'll be able to get directly to meeting business and hopefully get to the executive sessions so that we can adjourn the meeting right from there. So I'd like to be able to get that. If you guys can help me out with it, I'd appreciate it. Review and approve the meeting minutes. We don't have any. So I'll jump down to 4.1, set dates to open and close special town meeting warrant. Eric, we talked about opening.
Yeah, this is for the special town meeting that happens before the annual town meeting every year.
Yeah.
My suggestion would be that we open the special town meeting warrant today and we close it on April 16th.
Okay, so that gives us 2 weeks. So I'll entertain a motion for us to open the special town meeting warrant and the annual town meeting warrant on 4/2/2024 and to close it on 4/16/2024.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
I'll put it on, just to be clear, this is just for the special town meeting. The annual town meeting warrant is our,
it's still open, that's right.
Yeah, it was actually, it's already, the time to submit things is already passed for the special town meeting.
So I'll amend that motion to strike
For the
annual.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Teresa Ann Moss, yes.
Joe Shane, yes.
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes. 4.2, grant a motion to grant the renewal of junk dealer license, MJS Metals through May 1st, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this?
Yeah, I thought the last time they were in here, we were gonna try to be able to avoid this, that they got the renewal, that it didn't have to come through here. Remember?
I do
knew it was in
remember,
it.
and I thought that when I saw this.
So what is happening that they have, like, they're the only people that come every year and it's an agenda item. I'm not sure what's happening there. And we said we were gonna fix it.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure.
I think all licenses get renewed every year.
Yeah, but they don't come to the Board of Selectmen to get renewed.
Yeah, like the common victuals licenses, just, I think there's a general motion to allow administrative.
Right, to
Administrative.
to
Yeah,
renew.
we do them all at the same time.
Um,
Is it, well, what would make this one different than any of the other ones outside of?
I mean, I don't know, do we have any other junk dealers licenses? I don't know that we do.
Well, when we talked about it last time, I kind of looked through the minutes and it was just that he just wasn't getting the information to come, for the renewals. He wasn't being put on the list with all of the others. And we said, okay, next year we'll make sure you're on the list. And I guess we never did.
I'll double check that with Sabrina, and see if that's the kind of thing that in other municipalities, they just do put on the kind of generic list of annual renewals that's done en masse.
I remember we did something, but I didn't remember exactly what the.
Well, I can really throw a monkey wrench at all of you on that one, if you want, okay? So the used car licenses, the junk licenses, the years back were set up that we had to have renewal through the Board of Selectmen every year. And every year we had to produce a hazardous waste manifest that we had to submit to the town of Townsend for record. I know I still do that every year. I don't know if anybody else does.
Interesting.
So that should be looked into.
I agree.
Because but you don't have to come
You
in
don't
and
have
have
to
an
come
agenda
before
item.
the
to
I
have
don't
your
come
new-
in, but the license goes out. There's no reason it has to be here. But we have to produce and then we have to sign off on the licenses.
Right,
Yes.
okay.
Right, and we just, last
I don't see
time
anything
this
on the
came
charter
forward,
either,
right, why he can't do it just like everybody else, we
Yeah.
couldn't, wouldn't do it. But anyways, I certainly would approve it going forward, but I'd like to not see it again next year.
Well, we can't promise anything.
I know.
We'll check. We'll check to see if that's something we can just do and then.
Just do it. Yeah.
All right, all those in favor?
Teresa Marsh, yes?
Shank, yes.
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes. We can put that on the parking lot. 4.3, update on the planning committee. And is that you, Teresa?
The capital planning,
Capital
yep.
planning, yeah.
So, we just wanted to update what the requests that we had put forward. Remember, there was the, Unitel incentives. And, the previous year, they had been, $40,000. It ended up, we first tried to add the firehouse, but it was too late to get the firehouse in. But we did go ahead and try to get the proposal, which includes the same 4 projects that they were giving. It would only cost us $40,000. Now it's going to cost us $70,000. However, the energy.
You're talking the energy audit.
Right,
With all the,
yeah.
okay.
The Energy Committee still feels that even though we're not getting nearly as much back, we'll still get a return on our investment. Now, the average return on investment when we first presented, I think, was 4.2 years or something like that. Now it's up to 6 point something, but they still think it's a good way to go forward. So they're asking for that 70, and I can give you the exact figures, and I have all write-ups for each proposal, but they're asking for that $70,000 to be added to the capital plan. So that's the only change. Everything else on the plan stays the same.
So the question is whether or not, would you be willing to look up the exact number? Because I
Yep.
think we'd have to have a vote on the exact number as well. The Board of Selectmen would like to amend the previously approved capital plan that we already went through and talked about to add an additional project for this energy audit for these buildings at whatever the cost is.
Yep.
To be added to the capital plan for FY25.
So just for Teresa, for clarity for me, are we increasing it from 40 to 70? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, I'll give
Well,
you
it
the
wasn't,
exact.
it wasn't in the original capital plan.
Right, we didn't put any of
We
it.
didn't put any of it in the original capital plan. So we have the existing capital plan that was voted on and approved by the board to put on the warrant. The question is whether or not the board wishes to add this additional item onto the capital plan.
Well, no, the additional one we approved had a space holder for 40,000, because that's what we thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, because there's no
Right.
documentation, so I didn't know if that was
Right.
in addition to. So we're increasing what we put in there, well, what you guys put in there from 40,0and to 70,000.
Yeah.
So
And I'll give you the
we're
exact
adding
number in a
$30,000 to the
I
capital.
just gotta get on the webpage.
And do we have a total on what that is right now?
For everything for the
Yeah.
capital plan?
Yeah,
And Sabrina, didn't I send this to her? I thought I sent it to you, so I apologize if you guys didn't have it, but it is on SharePoint. I did put it over on SharePoint,
is it?
Yeah.
Where is it? In your,
under capital plan.
oh, under there, okay.
Okay, all right, just give me a second. So So,
The number I have is $77,765 for
Under
the
capital request.
and that's for,
Townsend LED retro cost.
Right.
There you go.
so that's the police station, library, senior center, memorial hall. We tried to get the harbor station in, but it was too late, so we have to get that the next time. So that's why I don't have that. I took that one out. And that's the number.
So that's the additional amount. So I believe the total cost would be, looks like course and crime, so it's 195,965.
190.
Oh, no, I
No,
apologize.
that's
No,
what you
that's
said, it's the 77.
77 is the new amount. I'm trying to figure out what the total is. I think it's that. 25, 65.
Which document am I looking at in here, Teresa?
It should be the capital plan workbook.
Capital plan requests. Recommendation, 25, fiscal year 25 recommendation, is that what
Yes.
I'm looking at? Okay, yeah.
So I think is this the document that you had with all of them on it?
Mhm.
So that would mean that the capital plan recommendations would be $35,000 for a records management project for the police department.
Yep,
$13,200 for the highway, cat loader lease, $77,765 for the municipal lighting retrofit,
mhm,
and then two separate $180,000 dump trucks for highway.
correct.
And then there was a proposal for $70,000 for fire, but I think the Board of Selectmen already deferred on
Yes,
to not put that on the capital plan
that was for
for the heavy
accessorize
Heavy
the truck.
Accessorize the truck, yeah, we did. Yeah, all right, so just gonna go from 40 to 77, that's fine.
So I'm just gonna give a total real quick. I apologize. So it looks like the total amount would be $485,965. Those ones that we talked about. So it would be a motion to add the $77,765,000 LED retrofit, lighting retrofit to the already approved capital plan.
So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded, any further discussion? I just have a couple of questions in regards to the implementation of that. So does the Energy Committee keep their eye on how that's going in and what they're putting in and what they're, how does that all work?
Well, I think we'd probably treat it the way that we were treating the Green Communities grants,
Gotcha, okay.
where the Energy Committee is kind of involved in oversight of those grants, and making sure that and checking with whatever entity is in charge of the building to make sure that the work was actually completed.
Yeah.
So we're doing a lot of work in Spalding, so we have to check with Dave, who's the North Middlesex lands and buildings guy, to make sure that they've actually completed the work before we report it over to MRPC. So
Okay.
we wouldn't have a reporting mechanism except to be back to the board to report that the work has been done, but I think.
The exact work that they're gonna do for each of the buildings is outlined like that, and the
That's what I'm
expectation.
saying, as long as somebody.
Right, somebody, the expectation is both the energy and the police department would keeping it, manage each of these items that's on there. The police department's the biggest, the other ones has a small
Right.
number.
Right.
And he wants to actually keep an eye on those himself, you know.
The
on
chief
top
wants
of it. Yeah,
to,
yeah.
oh, if he's.
For anything at the police department, the chief has to keep an eye on it anyway because of the security of that building. We wouldn't be doing any, touching that building without
Yep,
him.
so
as
good.
oversight.
No, I don't want any part of that, actually.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why
So it's all
I've got enough of what
very
I'm doing
fine
right
tuned.
now.
That is a lot, yeah.
So all those in favor?
Teresa Mosh, yes?
Shank, yes.
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes. Thank you, Teresa, for that. 4.4, 2024 budget update discussion. Eric did send out the new generation.
Yes, the latest version of the budget. There were a
Latest
couple of-
version, and we also, we got our BVA updated for March. That Katie just sent out too as well. I don't know if they did. Did you guys get that?
Yeah. I did, Christina, yeah. With all the APA stuff and everything. on it,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. This is, I find it very, informative to look to see where we're at currently with our budget to make sure that we're budgeting properly for, the next year. And I am happy to say that this looks more in line for the first time that we're where we should be.
I'm happy with the way that the vast majority of the lines are shaping out. We've done a good job of trying to keep that. I think, and I want to give Katie Kazanjian a lot of credit. She has really been working very hard to try and be very communicative and helpful with all of the different departments to help them understand their budgets, because I think some of them didn't really understand how the budget process was working in the past. And we've got some new department heads who hadn't gone through this kind of budgeting process before. But she's been really, and quite frankly, telling them no when they try to overspend and making them come up with answers before they go into the red. So there's still some accounts that she's keeping an eye on, but the vast majority of what we're looking at is in pretty good shape right now for the current year's budget.
Did you want to also share with the group the conversations we had with the MDOR?
Oh, yeah, so we did have two members of the Department of Revenue who came to town hall last week on Friday. One of them was our local rep who handles all of our submissions to DOR, certifies our tax rate and make sure our recap is correct and certifies our free cash. She's the one who does that, and her supervisor was also here, so he's kind of the big boss over that department. I'm happy to say that this was just a regular check-in as opposed to you have a problem and we're coming to check on you. They hadn't been here in a couple of years, and I wasn't here when the last they were here, but they did say the last time they were here because they were called in because of some challenges. I think they're happy at the fiscal state that we're in right now, at least, so far. They seem to be happy with our last year's submissions, and we got the recap in. We got our free cash certified early for Townsend, which is good.
We had our employees at the table that we didn't have last time.
We had an actual treasurer at the table. We didn't have a treasurer the last time they were here. So that was a good meeting, and I think that they were happy with the kind of the fiscal shape that the town is in, generally speaking, and the way that I think more appropriately we're having oversight on fiscal things that I think we're lacking in oversight. Not that people were doing anything wrong, but just that there wasn't a second set of eyes making sure that things were going right.
Yeah.
And then it's always harder to find a problem when you don't have two people.
Reconciliation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Cash reconciliation.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing, we're lagging, and now I think they're getting back up to more reasonable levels. So it was a good meeting with DOR. So that combined with the way the BVA is showing that we're staying in pretty good shape with respect to the fiscal year budget, and we're coming up on the last couple of months, so we should be able to kind of keep it in line, hopefully, for the next couple of months.
So in this generation, we had, there was a couple of changes that we had to straighten out with the building department. And I looked through it again. Did you take a peek at it as well?
Yeah,
That's
so
quite a few of my questions.
yeah, so I just want to just highlight the changes for folks, and then we'll talk about questions. So we did have to, there was a line, we moved the building commissioner's information down into an expense line because of the contract that we have with the vendor that's providing building commissioner services. When we moved that, it wasn't being captured, and it wasn't kind of being captured in the group, and so that amount wasn't showing up into the budget. It's the same as the budget was when it was back up in the salary line, and then it showed a drop when that error was, before that error was caught. So we fixed that, and there was like a $180 error in a library line that we fixed, and so that's taken care of. I met with Don Hayes, the chair of the FinCom today. There's a couple of things that he wants to see changed, but they're not numbers. It's just how we're showing things on the document, so it's more clear to the public. So I'm going to make those changes. I didn't have a chance to make them before we were today, but I will make those changes and send an edited document. And we have to have a conversation with the building commissioner about going forward and how that's how his kind of next year is going to look, whether we're going out to bid for it or whether we can convince him to do it in some different way. That'll decide whether we maintain that in an expense line if he's a vendor, or if he decides that he wants to have it as be like a stipended employee or a salaried employee, that we'll put it in, back up into the salary line. So we're going to make that determination hopefully before the next iteration of this contract comes out, and we'll have that result.
As long as we have the money there for them.
Yeah, so the money's there, and there's actually extra money in that line over what we anticipate. So I anticipate that line actually going down once we nail down the specifics with him.
I thought we were gonna be able to see the amount expended to date on this. Didn't we ask for that?
That's the BVA.
That's the BVA that Katie sent out.
Oh, okay, that's not in this document. so
Yeah,
we gotta put
that's
it
next year's
together.
budget, so you wouldn't see the percentages, but you can see if you pull up the
You put
BVA, you can pull up
got
those
it.
lines
Yep.
and see the
Gotcha.
expenditures in those lines.
So Teresa, what I like to do is to look at where we are currently on that.
Right, I just thought it was
And
gonna be
through
put
the year,
in
it
the
gives,
same document.
it gives us a better idea of are we
Yeah.
budgeting properly or not.
The
Gotcha.
BVA is generated by our Vadar system, and so it's not, unfortunately, there's no way to kind of carry
Carry it over, no problem.
For document. So this is actually obviously a time when if there's questions about the budget document, as we're probably by next week, by next meeting, we probably need to be pretty close to a final budget. Obviously, there's some things that are still hanging up in the air, but anything that's discretionary on the board, we want to have as final as possible.
Joe, you had something.
Well, I just got a question. I
Sure.
know several years back, when things were getting shuffled around, the fire department took $15,000 out of their budget and transferred it into the facilities department, because the new buildings were all coming online. There was a lot there. The fire department buildings have been being maintained and taken care of by the fire department itself. And I have been asked a couple times why isn't that 15,000 put back in the fire department budget? And I have to agree that if the fire department is maintaining all those buildings, but the facility's got $15,000 in it, then that kind of hurts the fire department budget, because he has to pay out of his regular budget to have that done. So I really feel we should reverse that, because if maintenance facility is not gonna take care of them buildings, they have to be taken care of. There's a lot to these new buildings, and I don't know how you would like to move forward with that.
So I can just let you know, so that is something that in Fire's initial budget request, they made that request.
Mhm.
And then after we worked with Fire on their budget request, they made the determination to withdraw the request to have that $15,000. So the fire department took that out of their budget request. So what I said to him was, this is something that we should have a discussion for FY26.
Yeah, I'd like to know the entire plan, not just for fire, but for everybody for facilities, and see what that budget and what that plan is.
Funny you should mention that. This is why I wanted to have the assessments done on all of the facilities,
Yeah.
all right, because, you know, on a 20,000 foot level, it's very difficult for us to budget for facilities when we don't really know what we have financially. We need to see our assets and liabilities on both sides, so, I'm hoping that once we have the, assessment complete, we then can sit down and basically do a work session to put everything in perspective, so that when we do move forward, we have a solid idea of what work we need for the facilities, if we can break it down into smaller projects, so that when, for instance, the state rep, Margaret Scarsdale, came to Eric and I and said, do you have a small project that you need funded? Well, we now have all these smaller projects that we can say, yeah, we got, what size is it, 20,000? Yes, okay, then we have this, 15,000, we have this. So we have it in smaller chunks so that we're able to do some of the work that we don't have to put in the budget or capital planning or whatever. We can get some of these smaller stuff done. When is the next time that we're really, it's just our going over this budget now, right? That we're
Yeah, this
submitting back to you.
is just a kind of, if anybody had any questions about the budget that we didn't answer at the budget summit, or about the changes that were made. But obviously, you know, any questions we're open for
Okay,
discussion.
because there's a couple of things that I'm gonna probably I'll email a couple of the questions and.
Yeah, I mean,
let's see.
you know, in all likelihood, we will be, so the things that are still up in the air, the trash contract is still up in the air. We don't have a final number on that. That's going to be a sizable portion of this budget, and any significant changes in that will have an impact on that budget. We still obviously don't have the final numbers for insurance. We don't have the final numbers for health insurance yet. We're nailing down the final numbers for the debt, which I've been talking with Melissa about that today. So there's still a few things up in the air. But obviously, the sooner we can have a vote from the Board of Selectmen on the budget that we're going to submit, the sooner we can get it out to the community and everybody can see the budget that we're putting forward at the annual town meeting.
Mhm.
In all reality, a lot of things could change on the 22nd with the election, because the override is could make a big difference in how we deal with the budget.
Mhm.
So in all likelihood, what I would suggest is figuring out a good time to have a meeting, obviously before annual town meeting, after the override vote, to figure out, you know, what our final budget looks like. But right now, we still have some things that are up in the air. and we
So
don't
you're
really
saying
know what it is.
from election day until the next.
Yeah, so
Which
election
other
day is
town
the
meeting?
22nd, and we don't have a regular Board of Selectmen meeting
To the
until the night of the town meeting. That's probably a little too late to take a vote on what we're gonna submit at town meeting.
So have a special one before that.
We'd have to have, I think, a special one, and that, whatever time the board decides, we'll just make it work. We can do a completely Zoom meeting, however, you know, it works for everybody,
Yeah, so
whatever.
we'll call as we get closer on that, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we can set that on the 16th, even. We don't have to do that now. We can set, look at those things.
Perfect.
Is there any other?
Yeah, I just
questions?
had one,
Sure.
line 1880, it's a new expense, but it's a miscellaneous. other.
1880, okay.
And I hate miscellaneous, so can you tell me what that is? Am I not reading this right?
Oh, 108?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's not miscellaneous, it's MIS.
Oh, MIS.
Yeah, MIS. So that's part of our IT services. And so one of the things we've been trying to capture in IT is the cost of our other vendors that we have to pay for licenses for outside of Guardian. So we're talking about licenses. We pay for Patriot, we pay for Vadar, we pay for, Patriot is our assessors database, Vadar is our bookkeeping database. We pay for licenses for Microsoft 360. We pay for licenses for Adobe.
We pay licenses for our firewall, we pay
So-
licenses for all of our VPNs.
If that's the case, right, we're using Microsoft now, and with this year, we have zero budgeted, so how are we paying for them? Why is it 1,500 in 2025, and it's been 0, 22, 23, 24?
Yeah, that was
Because
coming out of,
We've been paying, Guardian's been paying it, and we've been paying Guardian, that's how that works, right? And that money
Gotcha, so
goes,
this
comes out of
cost, I
Guardian,
had to look at the.
with a markup.
yes.
So
Gotcha.
we pay, when Guardian does it for us, they add a markup to the charge. If we do it ourselves, there won't be a markup.
Right, because they don't do that on a monthly basis,
So I
but
should say a
Guardian
decrease.
pays for it for a
decrease.
year, and then we pay Guardian back
Just
monthly.
clarify, it's not 1,500, it's 15,000.
15,000, yes, it's
15,000. Thank
15,000, yes. Yeah, and so that's just, we're trying to right-size that budget and also make it clear that these are non-Guardian licenses that we're paying. This is not IT, this is not something that Guardian's providing. We would have to pay this even if we had a person sitting in the building. Those licensed services are something else we'd have to pay.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, that's it. That's all I got.
Okay, so if that's it, then we'll, that's it for this generation until the next
So
one.
the next time we look at it.
4.5 surplus request for TEMA equipment.
This is just a request that came in from the fire department, from the fire chief to surplus some TEMA equipment. And it seemed,
It's a 2002 Ford van front former, you wrote, okay.
And front.
Former
ambulance.
ambulance.
Former ambulance.
Oh, I get it.
There's the front former ambulance.
It was previously used by emergency management, and the vehicle's over 22 years old with approximately 120,000 miles on it. We have determined the vehicle is not worth investing several $1,000s into its repairs. It does need to be repaired, and I think it's a good call, because I saw how much it was gonna cost.
and I think it's been sitting out in the weather out at the
Yes.
highway department for a while,
Yeah.
and so it's,
Just get rid of things like that.
yeah, I don't think there's
No reason for that.
no reason to throw in good
Put
money
it out.
after bad.
Put it out to surplus, get what we can.
So I'll entertain a motion to declare as surplus a 2002 Ford van front former ambulance.
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
She say Marsh, yes?
Joe Shank, yes.
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes. 4.6, discuss allowable amount for senior tax work-off program.
So we had discussed this at a prior meeting. Right now, I believe we have a limit of $500 per individual. I believe there's $10,000 set aside for the senior tax work-off program. That is not being fully utilized. We're not spending $10,000 a year on that. And so the request came up from the assessor's office for us to contemplate increasing the allowable amount of work-off amount from 500 to 1,000, and increasing the amount allocated for that program from 10,000 to 15,000. So it would allow 15 seniors to earn $1,000 off of their taxes with working in the work-off program.
I see a lot of the other towns around us are a little bit higher than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, Sabrina and I did a little research on this. I added a lot of the ones that I thought were close to Townsend but I also put in there, I think I put this one in there, the Commonwealth has a senior circuit breaker tax credit as well. So there is not only our municipal tax break that we can offer to our seniors, but there's also a senior circuit breaker tax that they can use for the state as well. And I was thinking that we might need to probably put more of this information on so that people can click and go on our website if we can get it all together. My thoughts on this, I thought we should increase it. We
It does
have,
seem like the other towns, comparable towns. are
yeah,
offering
Lincoln is
a larger-
1,500, Ashby is 1,500.
Pepperell's 1,500 to 2,000, they're gonna raise it to 2,000,
Yeah,
they plan to.
Grafton has a lot of.
Yeah.
A lot of other stuff that I don't even
So I
want to
think
go
we
into.
just should move it, try it,
Northampton
see what we
is
can get.
1,500.
Yeah.
So if we moved it to 1,000, we can let that run for a couple of years and see how it
See where it
works,
is.
see whether or not the
Move
seniors
it up to
are,
the 15,000.
yeah,
Yeah.
move up to 15,000, so that will allow up to 15 seniors that option. And then gauge, we can put it on the website and gauge the interest in the town.
In that way too. I'd also like to work with, Emily, that she has the information, so if somebody comes to her and Becky, sorry, yeah, Rebecca, we'd be able to, we need to give her that information so that if they do have questions, we can get that answered through her.
Absolutely. I think that making sure that the senior center staff, Becky and the rest of the staff are aware of these options.
Yeah.
I think is really critical because that's the way.
People ask the question, that piques their attention, they'll help us.
Yeah.
Well,
Both the
we
circuit
talked about it
breaker
at the
and
special, and I just want to make sure that, we're doing what we're saying, that, we're, looking into anything that we can do to help out anybody in regards to.
while we're discussing this, I also just want to throw out that as part of the Municipal Empowerment Act that the governor proposed in January, there is an additional abatement for seniors that's on the proposal. So that hasn't been passed yet, but it's possible that prior to 2025, that additional senior abatement could be passed. And if that comes forward, obviously we'll make sure that everybody
I think
is
I have
aware
that
of
on my update for that.
it. Sorry, I didn't mean to
For that,
steal your
no, I
thunder.
mean, this is all the, I think it's all good information for everybody.
So I think if the board so inclined, we'd be looking for a vote from the board to authorize an increase of $1,000 per individual, and a total of $15,000 for the senior tax work-off program.
So moved.
Second,
Discussion. I don't see why we can't do it at 1,500 like all the other.
The only
Keep it at 1,000, you'll have more people that'll be able to do it. I get
Yeah,
it.
I mean, yeah, that would be, we could do it at 1,500, but then we'd only have 10 people eligible. I just wouldn't wanna, if we go to 1,000 and you have full 15 people coming, because right now they're not getting the full $10,000 being spent. We go to 1,000, the full 15 people show up, then maybe next year we talk about, do we need to allocate enough to do $1,500 for 15 people? Just think about, wouldn't preclude us from changing it next year.
Yeah.
If that's
Okay.
what the term was.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Did you say Mosh, yes?
Joe Shankus.
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes.
Sabrina, can you help me remember to send that down to Vicky and Jody?
Yes.
Thank you.
4.7, discuss and sign April 22nd, 2024 election warrant. Which would be this. Right?
Okay, this is the warrant for the election on the 22nd.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the warrant for the election warrant, I should say, for April 22nd, 2024.
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion? I don't need to recuse myself because it's just for the position and not for me.
Yeah, right, it's just posting the election.
Just checking. All those in favor?
Did you say Mosh, yes?
Joe Shankus.
Chad Sexton Duranian.
We all have to sign it.
We all have to
Yeah,
sign.
it needs everybody's signature.
Um, 4.8, discuss and vote using electronic click voting pads at town meetings.
So,
You do your piece and I'll do my piece.
so this is something that since our special town meeting, we've had several conversations with the clerk's office. And with, I believe the clerk's offices have had conversations with the moderator about whether or not we should encourage the moderator to authorize a switch to electronic click voting pads for town meeting. I do know that we've had, over the past year, the last annual town meeting, we had an individual in town who was not a registered voter, who talked a lot during the meeting. You know, we had some things happen at the special town meeting with folks who weren't registered voters, who were interrupting the meeting, and with some concerns of folks about who was voting, because there's some standing room only in that large special town meeting. There are a couple of ways that we can try to address this. One of the ways is by, as a lot of towns have done, going to clickers. You register, you get a clicker, and then the vote is tabulated electronically as opposed to via voice vote or raised hand vote.
There'd be a bulletin board that would be up front, that if it was a majority vote or three-quarter vote or whatever, it's all preset in the system. There's a time period that the individuals would be able to have to vote. If they click, let's say they click yes on it, and then after 30 seconds, they decide no, they can change it, but there's a time frame involved, and for all voting to be done, the moderator then calls that the voting is closed. Once the voting is closed, it takes, I don't know, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and it populates up on the bulletin board, and it tells you how many yays, how many nays, and if it passed based upon if it's a majority vote or three-quarter vote or however like that.
Lots of towns do it.
Yeah.
It's not new technology. It's something that lots of towns. I talked to the clerk's office. They said it's possible that we could even borrow someone's system to have it ready for annual town meeting.
Didn't we appropriate money to do this a while back?
There's ARPA money.
That's my piece.
Now,
We did, we allocated ARPA money for it. It was for the sign-in equipment that they have and polling pad.
now, to be clear, the rules of town meeting are that's the town moderator's meeting. It's not the Board of Selectmen's meeting. And so the town moderator is the one who has control over those sorts of things. And up until the special town meeting that just happened in March, John wasn't really inclined to do anything like a polling pad. He may be differently inclined at this point. I know that Kathy has tried to convince him that that's the way that we should go to preclude some of the issues that we may have had.
Well, I guess it's up to you to figure that out.
Well, actually, how it is, because I know Kathy and he had talked to town council as well. We're not voting yes or no, we're voting on whether or not we think it's a good idea. And then it's the moderator is the one that makes the decision on it.
So I will say this, the other possibility, and something that I brought up with Kathy and something that I think we're gonna be prepared to do at town meeting regardless, is to have, colored cards. So everybody who registers for town meeting gets a colored card. When you vote, you raise your colored card. The town moderator can still call for a voice vote, but also the card gets raised. Makes it easier to count. It also makes it easier to tell who's allowed to vote because they have a colored card. And if you're not allowed to vote, you don't have a colored card. So we're going to have that prepared to go if we don't end up going with, electronic like that. So that Kathy's already getting that. There was a town that had some excess cards that's just gonna give them to Kathy. So she'll be ready to go with that.
We gotta leave it up to John and let him make his decision,
Yes.
and he'll do the right thing for the town, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think it would just be up to the board as to whether or not they think that.
I'm okay
I
with
should
it.
think
opine
it's
on
John's decision.
Hmm?
I think, like Joe just said, I think it's John's decision. Leave it to him, whatever he decides.
Yeah.
I personally don't like it, but
Yeah.
that doesn't matter.
There's two things involved in it, and it's, it would make the meeting go by quite faster than what it does, especially if it's a close vote. But it's A, it's more precise, and B, we're not gonna run into, people voting when they're not supposed to be voting.
Right there.
That's the big thing.
The other possibility is we roll with
Just
the
the cards.
cards and see how it works. see if that makes, if John's more comfortable with that, but it sounds like the will of the board is just to say, we'll just do what the moderator.
Defer to
thinks is-
Yeah, it's up to him. He runs that, not us. Perfect.
Just the last piece on that is, part of the reason, why we were pushing forward with the cabling is that we have increased the Wi-Fi capacity that's in the Memorial Hall as well. We have 2 brand new nodes in there, so that can accommodate that system without a problem.
How expensive is it? Did we put in the, well, how much did we put in the ARPA budget for it?
I
There's
forget.
$10,000 total put into the ARPA budget for both the polling pads and the equipment, and I think there's something like 8,000 left in there,
Okay.
something like that.
And how many units does that give us?
That is a very good question. I don't have the specifics on that.
I wanna say 200 off the top of my head, if I remember
you.
that discussion. But however it's decided, I just wanted to make sure that technology-wise, we could handle it, and we're all set for that if he decides to do it, so we're good with that. Thank you, Eric. Something that I've been waiting for, 4.9, cell tower lease.
So there has been, obviously, folks who don't know, there's a cell tower out by the senior center library on town-owned land. There's a company that's been operating that cell tower for many years. We went out to bid. We only had one bidder. It was the company that currently operates it. They've been operating without a contract for the last couple of years. And so this contract it's a pretty straightforward contract. Adam is currently looking at the contract. It does include escalator clauses, so our rent's gonna increase every year. And so this would just be a vote by the Board of Selectmen to authorize me to sign the cell tower contract when it's approved by town council.
Okay, so moved. I got it.
Second.
Discussion.
Is that the only one we have? Isn't there one up on Bayberry Hill Road? There's a cell tower up top there.
Is that on town land?
I think that might be on town land up there.
I would have to check. I could check on
Because
that.
repeaters and all that stuff's up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was a private cell tower on that as well. I knew that I knew that our radio towers were up there, but I didn't know whether or not there was a
Think we should
private
check
equipment on
You know,
Sure.
where's our, I know that we have space for police and fire. Is it on the one up there or is it?
Yeah, it's on the one up there.
Yeah, it's up on Bayberry Hill up top.
And the one that's over here has been operating for many years under the current configuration. There's also an escalator clause we put in, so we get rent if they sublease it to another, if they get another
Person.
person on the thing, we get 50% of the rent. So, there's provisions that allow us to increase the lease if they start to use it more.
Hmm.
And Adam's gonna go through, this would be subject to Adam, so we'll obviously review.
And yeah, it's all subject, so all those in favor.
Teresa Marshall.
Joe Shank, yes.
Chad Sexton, Duranian, yes. I wanted to make sure they had a contract because they've been going for a while without it.
Yeah.
4.10, discuss evaluation of administrative assistant to the select board. We all received from Callie, the evaluation. We just need to get those. I'd like to get those in. What did I say? The 12th?
Mine is done and in.
Okay,
Mine's
good.
done and then-
Yours done in, okay, then we don't even
So
have to
Chaz,
go
you're
there.
the only one who's.
Did you do yours?
No. I haven't.
Oh,
But we do it to Callie, right? We can send it to you.
Yeah,
Send it to
and then
Callie.
Callie and the vice chair is gonna go over and they'll be able to.
yes, I did see that, and I did speak with her, and we will work
You
on
set
that,
a
get
date?
it done. Yes, we did.
Okay. All right, so we'll get that done
You wanted to get it done for the next meeting, I believe.
before the 16th,
16th,
yeah,
yeah.
as part of our internal protocol.
We are working on that.
Excellent. Okay, that brings us to 5.0, ARPA projects. Do you have anything, Eric?
I mean, I think the only ARPA projects that are significantly right now are the cabling project that we're working on in town hall, and that's the one that's going on, and we, as I had mentioned earlier, we have site visits for the facilities assessment coming up in early those are the two main ARPA projects that are
No.
happening right now.
Didn't we, none that this is even the time, talked about there was that one line item, wellness, that we were gonna,
ARPA wellness, yeah.
Opera wellness. I see that money's still in that account. Have we made a decision when that's gonna get dispersed or how we're doing that?
So when we had that discussion, about the potential for ARPA bonus payments.
Right,
I talked over with Chaz, and unfortunately, given the fact that we have overrides potential, and we may need every dollar we can scrape together to, if these overrides don't pass, especially for Neshoba Tech, we deferred kind of moving on that ARPA project until we know whether or not the overrides pass.
as long as we're still moving forward.
Yeah, so it's
good.
still,
Good.
it's still out there, but if, for instance, if the town decides that they're not gonna approve the Neshoba Tech for $287,000, we're gonna have to come up with $287,000, and that may require us using one-time funds, which is an awful idea. I would never wanna do it,
Mhm.
but we're gonna have that bill come July 1, because I'm sure that budget is gonna pass at least 5 towns. And so that may require us scraping together ARPA funds to help pay that bill for a year.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do that. It's a ripcord pull in
Yeah,
the case
because
of
I like to,
emergency.
I would love to do what we all talked about.
Yes.
That would be by far the better way, show good faith on the board's side.
And I agree, but I'm.
Yeah, that's all right,
I
I'm good
wanna
with that,
be
that's fine.
fiscally responsible.
Oh,
for it
we
as
have to
well.
be, yeah, we have to be.
So that's just the reason why we haven't moved on it yet.
Right,
is
I'm
because
good.
We're waiting for that.
That's fine.
So the cabling project that Eric referenced, we have increased the Wi-Fi capacity here. We've brought sunshine to the rec department.
They actually have
actually-
nodes.
Yes. We're also gonna be putting in some more equipment over there, a switch and everything, so that there are certain games that they use over there that they couldn't because of the signal strength was so weak. Now they're able to actually have those for the kids, so I'm very pleased with that. We've also got meeting room 1 wired for TCAM to be moving down there. I've also had conversations with Comcast, and Comcast is putting together the engineering on being able to move this equipment down there. And that should be whenever Comcast gets in, and we will be able to move them down there.
Good job,
Yeah, we're doing really well.
moving along.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you for all your hard work with that.
Thank you. It's for the town. And I think we really need that. And to dovetail onto that, there are other projects that we are working on with cybersecurity, with whatever we can do to make sure that what we have here in town is cyber safe, and that the employees are educated so that if we do run into an incident, and I hate that word, but if we do, we have a plan for it.
Right.
So we can preserve and not get caught up in any ransomware or anything like that. 5.1, town administrator updates and reports.
So I have a few different things to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about is the personnel policies, specifically with respect to fractional employees. As all the members of the board know, we have personnel policies that are Board of Selectmen personnel policies. They apply to all personnel except to the extent that they are overridden by a collective bargaining agreement.
Right.
So the union agreements supersede the personnel policies in them. And if they're different. And one of the ways in which our union agreements have moved forward, but the personnel policies have not, is in the treatment of fractional employees, specifically around things like holidays.
Right.
When we have very few non-union fractional employees. I think in town hall, we have one.
Mhm.
There are a few at the library.
There's one in Highway too.
No, not any longer.
No,
She's.
oh, that's right, we increased
yeah,
it, so
She's
yeah.
increased it, so
Okay.
she is in the union. The personnel policies define a fractional employee as someone who works less than 20 hours. And a part-time employee is somebody who works at least 20 hours, but not 30 hours.
Mhm.
And part-time employees are awarded holidays, and fractional employees are not. In our collective bargaining agreements, that differentiation has been removed. And so every employee in the collective bargaining agreement gets holidays. When we budget for employees, including fractional employees, we budget them for a full year to get paid, including getting paid holidays. But we don't pay them on holidays, it's a fraction. So what I would like to do is if the board is willing, is to rewrite the personnel policies with respect to fractional employees to reflect the treatment of holidays that are treated in the collective bargaining agreements.
Because if it falls on a day that they have to work, they're the only one in the building.
Yeah, well, but they don't, they don't come in, they don't, so they're told not to come in and they don't get
And
paid.
they don't get paid, so.
And so, I'll be honest, this is kind of a retention piece. If these positions were in unions, they would get paid, but because they're not in unions, they're not getting paid. So it seems like we're treating our non-union employees worse than we're treating our union employees. That sometimes happens, but I think it's time to kind of catch this up, catch our personnel policies up to the way that it's in.
Well, we have to treat the employees right to keep them in.
I agree. And so we put some specific language in the union agreements that talk about how we treat part-timers with respect to holidays. So I'd like to mirror that into the personnel policies, and I'd like to bring that back on the 16th if the board is willing to review that.
Okay with it. Teresa, you okay with it?
Can I just understand, if you have an employee that just works Mondays, only Mondays,
Mhm.
then every Monday holiday, they would get full pay?
They would get, if you had an employee
Or
that
they
just
work
worked
8 hours
Mondays,
on Monday,
yes.
then it's not a percentage of a 20-hour week if they work, they're less, they're fractional employees or
Right. Now,
5 days.
we don't have any single day employees. We only have employees that work a couple of days or 3 or 4 days. And yes, there, there is the possibility of, somebody's schedule being kind of unbalanced that way. But I think if we make sure that the department heads that are utilizing fractional employees are utilizing them in an appropriate way, where they're not just piling all their hours onto a Monday, for
Right.
instance.
Right.
But instead of making sure that their hours are spread out over a couple, multiple days, then I think that would allow us to be more competitive. It's something that I think has rubbed at least a couple of different employees
Okay.
the wrong way, because there are other similarly situated union employees who are getting paid, but they're not.
And we're not talking a lot of people.
And again, this money's already budgeted.
Yeah.
When we set a budget, I'm looking at a person's weekly salary and multiplying it by 52.2. So they're already in the budget for that money to be spent. We're just.
Yeah, the only reason I asked, we did something very similar, but it was for employees that were allowed to choose the times that they came in. And when we put this policy in place, they all chose Monday.
Well, yeah, I mean, but
And they got paid for Monday,
Yeah.
whenever there was a holiday.
Okay, we don't
and
choose that
the Monday
policy.
holiday.
so we're,
I don't have stupid people.
yeah, we will make sure that we talk to the department heads about making sure that this isn't abused,
Mhm.
by making sure that we don't just have Monday employees, because
Thank you.
that's the
Appreciate
utilization
that.
rate. But it also helps the fact that, we're looking to retain people, and in a town
I
like this,
agree.
we have to have some people sometimes that are
I
fractional.
have no problem.
So I'll bring back a draft language on the 16th for the board to vote on. Let's see. Aggregation update. Ross was on, but he's not on anymore. I thought he was on for the aggregation update. But he's not here. There was a public hearing on the aggregation plan for Townsend. It happened at the end of May. The end of March. There were no comments from the public. It went forward. The AG's office had reviewed it and thought it was appropriate. And so we moved on to the next step of the aggregation process. And so I don't have a firm kind of timeline, because DPU has been very varying in how long it takes them to approve these projects, but it is the next hurdle that we got over. And my hope is, knock on wood, that before we get to the winter rates, and at the end of this year, that DPU will have approved us and we'll be able to go out to bid for, to get a competitive rate for the folks in town.
That is the hope,
That's our hope.
and the hope is to lock it in.
Lock it in for a while, because the longer you lock it in, the more you get those savings. Because those rates, like I said, I think I've told people this millions of times, but Ashby right now pays half for their energy what Townsend pays.
Right.
They're at 11 cents, we're at 22 with Unitil.
Because
They locked into a rate a few years ago, and they're paying half for their production of energy. And I think that would just be, that sort of rate would make a whole lot of sense. That sort of program, the reason why the board is obviously doing this is because that program makes a lot of sense.
Right,
So,
and I asked Derek to have an update because people have been asking about it, so.
every time those rates change. So
Yeah.
I think-
Every time anybody gets a bill.
Every time they get a bill, they ask about it.
Yeah.
So the next thing I wanted to mention was, I wanted to have a quick discussion on the override ballot question. So as folks know, on March 19th, we had a special town meeting regarding the override. That was for an appropriation of funds should an override pass. So that appropriation was approved by a special town meeting. That means within 90 days of that, we have to have a ballot question that approves those funds. So we've got the annual election coming up on April 22nd, at which time there will be a ballot question on those two separate overrides that the board had set up. They're approved at the special town meeting. And so if that vote is approved, then there's no further action we need to take on the overrides. They will have been approved on a ballot and approved at a special town meeting. However, in the event that that vote is not approved, we have a full 90 days from the 19th to have elections reflective of those that special town meeting. So the board could schedule a subsequent override ballot question for a subsequent special election.
If needed.
If needed. As we've talked about, unless the school comes in at a 0% increase, we're gonna need an override this year, in all likelihood. Now, if the budget fails, in other words, two or more towns in the regional school district vote no, then the school committee will have to go back and vote on a subsequent budget that would have to be a lower amount than the amount that they originally came up with. That would mean we would have to go for an override of a lower amount, potentially. So I met with the city clerk to talk about the feasibility of scheduling a second election for a different override amount should the first override ballot questions fail, or one or both of them fail.
Right.
So we have to set the ballot questions 35 days before a subsequent election. The last date that we would be able to hold an election using those special town meeting votes is June 17th. So we'd have to have an election by June 17th.
By June 17th.
So for instance, if we picked June 10th as a date that we wanted to have that election, we would have to have the ballot questions voted on by the board by May 3rd. So before the annual town meeting, we would have to have another vote on what those ballot questions would be. We would have to take a vote on whether or not to exempt that special election from vote by mail 45 days before that election. So for a June 10th, a proposed special election date, that would mean by April 25th, we'd have to have a vote to exempt that from vote by mail, which we did for this annual town election. election already. But we have to have another vote. You have to have a vote for each election that you want to do that for. So, the clerk would like to, had expressed a request for me to ask the board about a possible Saturday election date. So if we have to have a subsequent election after the 22nd, if for some reason both of those overrides, one or both of those overrides fail, to have the next special election on a Saturday. So I don't know how the board feels about that sort of proposal. The idea would be people don't have to work on Saturday. More people would be free to show up and vote on a Saturday than they would be at a date during the week. You know, that would be completely up to the board. So that we would be proposing potentially the 15th, which is a Saturday for that election.
June 15th.
June 15th.
That's the day before Father's Day. Does that mean anything? I'm serious. Do people travel?
I mean, we could do that. We could do it a week before on the 8th. We just have to adjust the dates from which we'd have to take those votes on before those dates.
I don't know if that's a big trouble.
So it's just one of this is something we need to contemplate just as a just in case the April 22nd election doesn't approve both of those overrides.
Well, we'll see what happens on the 22nd, right?
Yeah. So my suggestion would be, we don't have to make any decisions today. I just wanted to provide this information to the board, but my suggestion would be that if the board is willing to contemplate a Saturday election, we pick a potential date, and then we put a vote on for the 16th to both set a next election date and to vote to exempt it from a vote by mail on the 16th. That way we've done it in plenty of time for that election. If we did it on the 8th, to set it on, say, for June 8th, that Saturday, and then that we would have to, that would mean by the 1st of May, we'd have to find those new amounts to set up the ballot questions for June 8th. But that's something we would do on the 16th. Next week.
Yeah. It's something,
Yeah, we have to.
So I just wanted to float that to everyone,
We
so
have
we're
to be
all,
prepared.
we have to be prepared for things that may or may
Yeah.
not happen. So I
That's
just
okay.
wanted to let folks
I'm good with that, you?
yeah,
Yeah, we're good.
Teresa?
Yep, I'm fine with that.
know.
I don't have issues with the Saturday either, do you? No? No?
So I did want to mention that we had a meeting with Fish and Wildlife today regarding the notice that they sent, the kind of informational notice they sent about the large property that they were talking about going to Fish and Wildlife. That property is not town property. That is private property. And the owners of that private property have offered it for sale to Fish and Wildlife. This is a family that is a kind of a well-known family in town. They are conservation minded, and in the kind of the will of the person who passed away, I think there is a wish to have this land used for conservation purposes.
Mm-hmm.
If that is the case, and this is this family's wish, there are two options. They could have given it to a nonprofit, or they could give it to Fish and Wildlife. The benefit of giving it to Fish and Wildlife is that acreage gets put into the town's acreage, and we get a pilot, we get a cash for that as part of our annual state funding. We get money. It's not the same as we get as taxes. It's only a percentage of taxes, but it is, we do get funds. If that goes to a nonprofit, they would be tax exempt and we wouldn't get anything for the funding. So this is, Chaz was in on the meeting. This was just a clarification. The Fish and Wildlife, I think, would like to get a letter acknowledging that the Board of Selectmen doesn't oppose this, if the board is willing to provide such a letter, because it makes the process go smoother. And so there's a question.
Bridge too.
That's a meeting for the 16th.
Feel like a bridge.
And so there would just be a question from the board. I don't think there needs to be a formal vote on it, but is the board comfortable with us sending a letter from the town saying that the board does not oppose the transfer of this property to Fish and Wildlife? Okay, so we can draft that and maybe put it over Chaz's signature.
Yeah, and if I can just also talk about the two parcels that we also talked about besides that. We had discussions in regards to is it 182 Warren?
Yes, 182 Warren.
182 Warren, we wanted to do an A&R in the back portion. So they're gonna be looking at that, for that, if it's something that they want, which she did express interest in, then we'll be able to get somebody in to find out where we need to cut that parcel off so that we can sell the front part and they'll.
So
they'll
is it
go-
just a building lot done?
So the front is the building lot and then the back
Back to
to,
land.
The back will go, cause it backs up to their existing,
and Jess Consalvo has already reached out to Ann Gagnon from Fish and Wildlife and they scheduled a date when they're gonna do a joint walk on the property so our land and land,
Have we
use.
considered the butters that live right there, if they were interested in buying the whole thing?
That's not something that we haven't taken any steps, quite
Yeah.
frankly, though, so
Yeah,
far.
we
It's
did
up to the board.
No, we-
Sometimes the butters would be.
the
more than
last
happy
time
to
we
buy
met,
the
we
whole
decided
thing.
that we were gonna see if, Fish and Wildlife was interested. And I think she was wholeheartedly interested in it. It still has to go through a process with them, you know?
This would be a kind of, give us a little bit of the best of both worlds, because we'd be able to make money on a buildable
Lot.
lot that has frontage.
Yeah.
And then have the back portion still retained for conservation purposes by Fish and Wildlife.
Correct.
And we'll still get, that would go into the pilot as well. But obviously, but that's just an update on that.
I
And
just thought,
Yeah.
you're gonna talk about the other parcel.
And there's another parcel that's out down by, Shirley Road that it's landlocked. Was this the one that they wanted to build no, this wasn't a water tower on it, I'm talking.
No, that's the other one, yeah.
But it's landlocked, it's right on the town line.
Yeah, it was right above it, but.
And it's really, I mean, it's not a buildable lot, there's no access to get into it. And it does abut their land as well, so they're interested in taking that piece of land too. So we'll see what they can come back with. And I gave her the card for it, the parcel card. But they do their discussions 2 times in a year. They've already done the beginning of this year, and then she said September, right, is when they'll decide whether or not they're gonna take it on as a project. But I did want to let you guys know that I brought it forward like you guys wanted me to. And
all right, good.
And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
5.2, reports from board liaisons.
So there's been, of course, finance meetings, we've been going a lot of, back and forth every day on that. Energy, had followed through with an energy. The one meeting I was slightly concerned with, we had a meeting with bylaw, and they had a co-meeting with the planning board.
Mhm.
And one of the items that they're bringing up is just some language cleanup on accessory apartment. There's no longer any fees for that or register them any year, every year, et cetera. They've already made that change, but there's some other changes that they wanted to do with the accessory apartment. So they brought that before the planning board, and they all kind of came to agreement. They had met with Adam ahead of here, that they were okay with this, language change up in a couple of things going forward. However, there were a couple of people in the planning meeting that wanted the language about that's in the accessory apartment. There's language about if it's not used for family members, then it becomes affordable housing.
Mhm.
And there was discussion about removing that. They decided not to push that at this time. I kind of guided them in that way, and it looked like that, they're not gonna go that time, but they were trying to say, maybe they open it up on the floor, or maybe they'll ask, people to open it up on the floor. So they're not very happy about the affordable housing. Or I shouldn't say they, some members aren't happy about the affordable housing plan altogether. And I'm like, well, nobody's happy about it, but it's the law, so. Anyway,
That's a whole
so that's a whole separate
Communities thing is a whole.
sub-community. So just wanted to give you a heads up.
Yeah, and then we'll have, town council looking at it if that's what they want, but.
So I'm confused. They want to take out the part that if a relative's not there, that the person can just rent it themselves, or they want to make it stricter that the town takes who puts in there.
Right now,
I'm sorry, no, I
No,
was just,
no,
they want to take it out so that now if you don't rent to a family member, it has to be affordable.
Yeah.
They remove that, you can rent to anybody.
And they should, because my take would be the people that built that, whoever paid, the in-law, the children that supplied the house, shouldn't be put under the gun to say, well, gee, my mom and my dad passed away, I don't have a member there, but I got a friend, versus they're gonna put in affordable housing. I think that's the best thing they could do, take that out of there. As long as it's rented and income's coming, the people are paying taxes on the property. So I just don't think we should be saying who they can or who they cannot have next door to them. Most in-law apartments have connected doors, you know what I mean? So that's my take.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Goodness, where do I start? Long conversations with water. We got an update this morning, an unexpected update this morning, didn't we? It looks like they're a little bit, there's time constraints and all of that kind of stuff, but if you look at the whole project, they're doing really well. As far as the building is concerned, they're now doing addition of the new water pipes and doing the extension. So of course there's difficulties with that, but we're gonna take one step at a time when it comes to all of that. But I think we had a productive meeting this morning, Eric, and I think we've got some things ironed out on where we're gonna do to move forward. So I think the least amount of disruption that we can do, but its timing is going to be critical for everything. Just bear with us in regards to that, but there is a plan, and all parties involved, highway and water and the contractors, we're all trying to work together to get things done as quickly as possible. As far as the cabling project phase 2, the cabling people were over at the Council on Aging today. When we get finished with there, that's probably going to be done tomorrow. That new extension, both rooms in that new extension area will be fully capable now with internet. We've got Wi-Fi nodes that we're going to supply to them there. We're also upgrading the systems or the access to network systems in the front so that they plug their computers right in as opposed to going off the Wi-Fi like they have been. So that'll, A, it'll secure the network a little better, but B, it'll increase the Wi-Fi for the other individuals that may be wanting to do that. It also looks like we're probably, with their AV equipment, we're gonna help them out with that too, to make sure that the wiring is set properly. I was talking with the tech today. There's just a couple of changes, and that'll be a little more solid for when they need to use the TV, or they need to, it's the way they have certain things plugged in, it streamline whatever they have to do. And they had a wonderful lunch today, I might add, because I wanted to sit down and join them. As far as, I did miss the planning board meeting last night, or the joint meeting that they had. I was here early to take care of some things, and I believe, and I had gotten a couple of comments from individuals that I've talked to in town of how nice it is to see that the boards and committees are working collaboratively together, and I wanted to pass that on. And the boards and committees that I work with, and even the individuals on other boards, are saying that the liaison, what you guys are doing with your assignments there, everybody is really happy about getting the information out. Everybody's on the same page, and I just want to applaud the communication between everybody, because it's kind of cutting down on the, everything being in silos. It's nice to see, and the townspeople do recognize that, you know, that we are working quite closely together. Public safety.
Public safety, well, I'll piggyback off of what you just said. The fire department and the police department and building department, they all said the same thing. It's really nice that the liaisons are so involved and we are working together as a group. Everyone, police department feels that they can come in front of the board and feel safe and not have problems. Fire department versus, like they said years ago, no one knew what to do, when to do it. So that's a huge asset for us. Shows what we're doing is working out. So I just wanted to let you know. Police department, really, he doesn't have a lot to report because there's not really a lot going on over there. He's got that running like a well-oiled machine. He did have one question and concern. He said he's gonna figure how he's gonna do it, and he'll be talking with you on it. And, you know, the next town meeting coming up, he does have some concerns, but he said he's gonna figure that out, which is good. And fire department's been doing really good. You know, they've got a good group of people. I think their roster's pretty much so full. The new assistant fire chief, Kirk, I've had several meetings with him. He is a very knowledgeable person. So I think if we keep moving forward with Mr. Shepherd's plan that he's gonna step down, I would think we would really be in a great shape to have somebody fill in them shoes. So that's nice. As far as the building department, you know, I get great updates from Mr. Garside every few days. I think he says Eric and I. So I think that department's running real well. Things are going good. So
I'm sure they're colorful.
yeah, no, they're pretty good. They're just to the
Pretty
point.
straightforward, yeah.
Yeah, pretty, that's what we done, how many permits we done, this is what we're working on, how many which is good. It's really nice, so. And then the animal control officer, there's no real issues there whatsoever. Everything's kinda, you know, just moving forward.
Good.
So that's all I got.
Announcements and communications, 5.3.
Yeah, I have one, the DAV van that we approved earlier in the year should be here tomorrow,
Oh, wow.
unless we get stuck in the snow, but in the early morning, we should be fine. It's open to any veteran to be used to go to any medical appointments. It doesn't have to be in the state, so we can take you up to Manchester, Boston, we go all the way up to Penn, up near Chicopee,
Oh, good, okay.
and even down to Providence. To sign up, we'll start putting signs around how to sign up for rides. One person does coordinate the rides for Johnson, but Natalie, the veterans officer, also has the information, and we'll start putting more information in the town hall and around the town. And so far we have, I think, 4 drivers that are gonna be available to drive people around, so
Is that all volunteer?
all volunteer.
Very nice.
Nice. Good job. I know you and Natalie and.
Natalie and I are
up,
2 of the drivers.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was up at the Easter egg hunt, which was quite the, I don't know, I
Quite the
like it.
event.
Yeah, I like it. I
Yeah, it
really
is.
do. Betty Mae does a
I
good job with
remember
that.
like that. That's
We,
one of her favorites.
Yep, it is. And I just to represent the board there and wish everybody a happy Easter on behalf of the Board of Selectmen. April 20th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. is Townsend Earth Day. And that is at the North Middlesex Regional High School in the parking lot that they have been. Vendors and crafters, they still have spots available. The 10 by 10 spot is $35, and we do have a flyer on the website if you want to click on that. It'll give you the email address if you're interested in getting a block there. Something else that I wanted to throw out to the town, actually 2 things. One of them is there's a lot of legislative action that's being taken up in the state, and I'm just throwing it out there just for information that's coming up. several different things that kind of apply to us and what we had in our special meeting. Chapter 70 school aid, they're increasing the minimum aid. That's in the new budget that's coming out. So if you want any further information on any of these, contact your legislature. What I'm trying to do is to put the information out there to everybody so that you know what's going on in the state level, so that if you want to write, talk to Margaret Scarsdale, a few representatives, Scarsdale or Senator Cronin, so they can get your word in. There's a supplemental local road and bridge funding increase. They're looking to increase that in the budget, 150 million. We're not going to get 150 million, but I think it's really important for if we had enough people saying something to the legislature saying we need it, it's additional funds for us. There's charter school reimbursements, there's rural school aid, there's special education credit circuit breaker. They're going to fully fund that. That's in the current budget. Regional school transportation, we're asking to have that fully funded as well. That's going to help us out tremendously. If you remember in the at the special town meeting how what they budgeted for, this would definitely help out for fiscal year 25. Out of district vocational transportation also is in there. They're asking for that to be fully funded. There's also, and the reason why Eric and I had a conversation with Fish and Wildlife is the payments in lieu of taxes, which is the pilot program that we talk about a lot. They are going to, they want to build on the governor's investment, so they want to increase that. So we would be then getting a return for more money. They'll be voting on that. iLottery, they're looking at internet lottery, that the proceeds go solely for local aid. They're creating a new disaster relief fund. That's if any community within Massachusetts has a major disaster and the state needs to be able to fund whatever happens in that particular community, they have a fund for that. At the legislative talk that we had, it's really, there's some good things, there's not so good things, you know, but the good things that are coming in is that if you really want to increase the Chapter 70, especially for school aid, the transportation costs for school, write your local congressperson and let them know where you stand. They're looking for letters. I know on Margaret Scarsdale's page, she does have information in regards to what's up for the budget for fiscal year 25. But that's the place to be heard and not on Facebook where it just goes out anywhere. If you really want to make a difference, make sure that you put in for a letter to the congressman. Also, I wanted to give the update for the Harbor Trace Treatment Plant. The building, it looks like upcoming in April, the building is pretty much going to be complete. They're going to be doing work around the building itself. But the upcoming spring and summer, they need to finish the water line work and permanent trench paving. They're going to begin the upgrades on the well buildings, all of the well buildings, not just the one out there. They're going to be paving Harbor Trace Road and a small section of South Street. And the building will be completed or near so, and the testing of the filters. And we said, what did we say, November, right, today, that it was. So that is still where we're looking at to have that. Once they get tested, there's a while that they have to go through a testing process. Once that gets approved through EPA, I believe, and the water,
I think so.
Then they'll be able to get that up and running. And that, I think, would take the stress off of the wells that we have right now, because we're only operating, we're down 2 wells.
Yeah, we're down.
You know, so, and that's all I have for that. So that's all I'm pontificating I'm gonna do today. Next meeting we have is April 16th, 2024. And I'll entertain a motion to review and sign payroll and bills payable warrants out of session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Chase Amos, yes.
Boshank, yes.
West Sexton Marine, yes. And I would like to entertain two motions. Motion 1, to enter into executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel in regards to the fire chief contract. And also a motion for, to enter into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, which he does. And this is in regards to 61 Edward Road,
And to adjourn from,
and to adjourn from executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? Nope. All those in favor?
Did you say Marcia?
Joe Shank, yes.
Jeff Lexington, yes. Thank you very much.